Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? So today we're going to take a deep dive into how to take a song that exists, bring it into Ableton, and how to warp it and create your own loops out of it so then you can then remix the song. All right, so first thing I want to talk about is preferences. And those videos that I had you watch last few days already talked about preferences, but I want to take you back there. And the way we get there is by going to Options, going down to Preferences. On the left hand side here, you want to click on Record, Warp, and Launch. And here we have the Warp and Fades section right here. What you want to have is Loop, Warp, Samples, Unwarped. And this is, I want everybody to make this change. This is a preferential thing, but I want you to make this change because I want us to get really good at working with loops, and I know it can be tedious, it can be a little bit confusing, but just the more you do it, the easier it is, and then the faster you get at it, then the less you have to think about it. So we want all of our short samples, we're going to just have them be unwarped one-shots. So when we bring in a sample into Ableton, Ableton's not going to automatically try to warp it, and that's currently what it does, unless you've changed this. It'll try to warp it for you, and then it'll put a whole bunch of those warp markers in there, and then that can be actually, it can make things a little bit trickier to actually get things warped successfully. So we'll do unwarp there. Auto warp long samples, you want that to be off. For instance, a long sample would be like a whole song. We don't want it to automatically warp, try and warp it for us. We wanted to give Ableton a little bit more information based on our own judgment about how we should proceed with the warping, because as you've seen, there are different ways to go about warping. There's different warping parameters and so on. So, and then default warp mode, go ahead and choose complex, because complex is just going to work on the widest range of samples. It does a really good job of maintaining the integrity of most samples, so we'll just keep that there, and then just keep the create fades on the clip edges on. If you remember, that's all about just creating a little short, I think a 4 or 0.4 millisecond little volume fade at the beginning and end, so that it doesn't have this hard kind of a little static or clip pop noise. All right, so once you have those selected, go ahead and hit close here. So you'll see that all of these are full-length songs here. Some are familiar, some may not be. First off, we're going to start with this Earth, Wind, and Fire September. Let's go ahead and give it a listen. We're going to zoom in on the waveform. Okay, so I'm going to try and extract a 4-bar loop out of it. First thing you should always do when you're working with an entire song is you need to figure out where you're going to start. Basically, where do you want your warp or your loop to start? So just right off the bat in the beginning, I think one of the easiest things we could do, just the very intro of the song, really lends itself to a nice warp. And this is something that you're going to have to kind of figure out as we go along. You'll find out that you can't always loop the things that you want to loop, because there may be some extra vocal there or some drum hit or something that just makes it sound awkward. And this is where that counting is going to really come in handy. Remember when you counted the Lady Gaga song, counting the beats, 1, 2, 3, 4. That is really going to come in handy here. So the first thing, I'm press space bar here. First problem I have is that, and this often happens, is that we have this big blank space at the very, very beginning here. I don't want my loop to start with a blank, no audio at the beginning. So we're going to grab this bottom flag right here. That's our start marker. And first I'm going to click up here. I'm going to zoom in, get really nice and close. And then to bring that start marker over, a really quick way you can do it is go up here to where the magnifying glass is. Hold Control, and you'll see there that now it has a little flag marker there. And so if I click there, it'll bring my start marker over. Okay, so let's press play again. See how it goes. Probably when you see that transient right there, that's probably where it's going to sound the best. Yeah, it starts right there. You can hear the very beginning note. As long as you can identify, you can really clearly hear that beginning note. If I moved it too far over here, and it's not as, we chop a little bit of it off. So right about there will be perfect. And the reason we're seeing these two different waveforms here, they don't look the same, is because what we're actually seeing here is the right channel and the left channel. Most of what's happening is in the right channel, so it's only happening in one of your ears. Or I might have this backwards, but I'm pretty sure that bottom one is the right channel. So from there, you're going to right click on the little flag marker right there, and I have the flag marker, right click. And for now, we're going to work with just warping from here straight. And there's a few different ways to do it. If you choose warp from here, Ableton is going to do its best to really accurately warp it, but it could end up adding a whole bunch of warp markers. And you already know now, by adding a lot of warp markers, you're adding a lot of these changes, compressions, and these stretching of the audio. And if you over warp something, it's going to sound just off. It's going to sound really wonky and just not good. So you want to avoid warping, or you want to avoid over warping. So let's just start off and do a warp from here straight. It's only going to add one warp marker at the very beginning of our song from where we chose it. And then you'll see that there are no other warp markers added, although it is providing these little transient markers here for us. So now what we want to do is just go ahead. Ableton has tried to warp it for us, so we're just going to go ahead and press play, and then also try to count it out and see how it sounds. Right away you can hear that the song has slowed down, and Ableton's guess at it is that this segment is 125.95 BPM. So if we want to get back to that regular speed of the song, you're like, whoa, it slowed it way down. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you want to hear it at its original tempo, just make this one match that tempo as needed. So we'll do 125, and you'll hear the song sounds the right speed again. Now, that may not actually be the BPM, and I don't think it is. We're going to have to take a look here. And we're going to have to look at these transients and see which ones keep track of the beat. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. You can kind of hear like that cowbell or something. Click, 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 click. It's right there. So okay. So if we're going to make a 4-bar loop, we want this to go all the way up to the 5th bar, right? 4 whole bars will go all the way to the 5th bar. And I can actually see that this transient right here, that kick drum that comes in, is actually marks the beat 1 of the 1st bar. So let's count that out again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1. So that would be the first beat of the 5th bar. So that transient, those transients should be matching up right there on our 5th bar. Unfortunately, they're not. But a way we can really quickly and kind of easily tweak this is we go over here and click on our BPM and slowly just drag it down. A little bit, drag it down, and you'll see that what I'm doing there is trying to make that transient. I'm looking at this one right here, so you gotta kind of keep an eye on it. Might have to re-listen to it if you lose it. But I'm trying to make that one match as close as I can. As close as I can to the transient. And that looks good to me because I'm also looking at these other transients here. You can see that that one is now lining up perfectly on the 4, that one's on the 3, that one's on the 2. Now this song, you'll find this with a lot of older songs, is it was not recorded with a click track, also known as a metronome. So that's this thing right up here. And this is what most songs are recorded with these days. Like when you record on a grid in a program like this, you know the BPM is going to be perfect, but back in the day, they didn't always do that. So they would actually just go for it, and the drummer would keep the tempo, and then so there would be these natural fluctuations in tempo, right? They would speed up and slow down a little bit because they're not actually recording to something that's keeping them perfectly on the beat. So let's go ahead and count this again. 1, 2, 3. And now I have the metronome on. That's this guy right here. Make sure you have count in on none so it doesn't count in before. You can just press play. And you want to hear how the click track sounds with the beat of the song. Now the song sounds too fast because you'll see here that since we moved this down, 119, this is 125, I'm going to put that at 119 to match it. And now, there's the original tempo. Okay, that looks pretty good. However, we're going to have a little bit of an issue here. I can already see, because if you zoom in right here, you can see that the first beat of bar 5 is coming a little bit too soon. Okay, so to create a warp, or not a warp, to create our 4-bar loop, what we're going to do here, I'm going to try and just zoom in on my 4 bars. Something to also be aware of. If you are, see how I get the speaker symbol down here? Okay, I get the speaker symbol down here. That is a quick play way. So if you just like click where there's a speaker, then it will play in that location. Also, I'm going to turn this to none too. This is our quantization. This is what makes sure that it's always playing in time. I don't really need that right now. I want it just to go play where I want it to. So if wherever I click, it's just going to jump there. It's not going to make me wait. So we'll keep that on none for now. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select up here. So yeah, the bottom half is the speaker, and the top half, you have your normal mouse pointer. You can click here and drag all the way across up to bar 5, just like that. You want to make it all the way to bar 5. So it's a perfect 4-bar loop. And then you're going to hold Control and press L, or right click and select loop selection. Okay, like I said, Control L right there. So let's hear how that sounds. And I'm really paying attention to this part at the end here. Okay, we heard that little kick drum coming right as it was doing the turnaround and going back to loop here. Probably don't want that, right? That doesn't make it sound like it's a perfect loop. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in up on this part, and I can see that there's already a transient marker that's already been laid out here for me, which is perfect. And I'm going to double click on it, create that warp marker, and then I'm going to bring that over to the 5th bar. Okay, so now we've stretched out everything in here though, and you can see that these transients are not lining up as perfectly as they were. But let's go ahead and check out the end. You can tell that the click track doesn't line up as well. I'm going to turn that off for now because it's... But that loop sounded a lot better. So what we're going to do here, we can see that our transients right here, remember it's this lower part, you can tell is where we're hearing our main beat there. Hearing that. And you can actually hear it in your right, in your right earphone there. You can hear that that's where the cowbell is coming from. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here in the middle. I'm going to zoom in. That's just kind of the way I like to do it. I can see that transient's right there. That's good. If you want to, you can, If you want to, something you can do is hold Shift. If you wanted to move that transient marker, because I saw that it was like right there, kind of. And I would rather it right there in the very beginning or the very front of that hit right there. I think that's a little bit more accurate. So if you hold Shift, you can actually move that transient marker to wherever you want. I just move it right there in the very front, then double click up here, get that warp marker, and then I am dragging this over so it lands right on the 3rd downbeat of the 3rd bar. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Here I've got, okay, and it's a preferential thing. It's close enough. Like it does trigger right there. I could be a little bit more nitpicky, but it's probably not going to be too noticeable. And then on bar 4, we have a big problem there, right? We want that one to come all the way there. Okay. And then you see that a lot of the stuff around it kind of takes its place. We've got the downbeats here. Turn on the metronome. And that sounds pretty good. And now I really do have that loop there. Okay, so then if I wanted to use this in a song, what I would do now is I'm going to, you could either right click on the clip and you could hit crop clips, or also you could right click down here and you could also say crop sample. And now it's going to erase everything else out of the way, so now that this sample is purely this loop. And so now, at this point, you could take this and let's bring it over to an arrangement view here. If I want to bring it over here, make a new track for it, I could use this, put it like right here in the very beginning, and then hit Control D and duplicate it. And then from there, I could create a new MIDI track or something. Let's do that. Create a new MIDI track. Now I'd like you to try this for each of these samples. Try to create some kind of beat behind it. So we're going to go back to those old packs that we were using. Go to pick a pack. Remember, that needs to be on a MIDI track. That's why I chose MIDI there. You're going to go to, let's choose, I don't know, let's choose something silly. It's probably going to sound pretty silly with the beat tools, you know, big massive rap kind of beat behind it, but who knows. Okay, I'm going to take this one just for the sake of time. Drop it right there. And let's go ahead and, you know, I'll zoom in here and I'll first create a MIDI clip that is that's going to be 4 bars long. You know, I'll start with 1 bar. 1 bar I think is easier for simplicity's sake. Highlight the region that you want to create your MIDI clip, right click, and hit Insert MIDI Clip, also Control Shift M. And now, you know, actually I do want that to be longer. I want that to be 4 bars because it's not quite enough to work with here. Issue here though. You can see that what it's done is I'm looping just a single bar. It's still only giving me a bar to work with here. I actually need to go down here and change the length of this to 4. Okay, remember your loop length area right here. And so now it is showing me that I have that whole space to work with. So I'm just going to go ahead and put let's hear what we got here. Maybe that one right there. I'm going to put that on every 0.2 and 0.4. If I highlight perfectly this whole region, you can see I'm highlighting the first full bar. Then if I press Control D, it will perfectly duplicate that whole bar, everything in there over here. So then I have every 0.2 and 0.4. So let's press play again. Okay, and you're getting the idea how this could start. This sounds like it would be the beginning of a song, and then at this point you can either copy this or you can create a new MIDI clip zone that you want to change things up a little bit. We could just do hold control and drag it over to get an exact copy, and then in this copy we could go and click on this here and we could start adding more to it however you want. Maybe flesh out the beat a little bit more. Just throwing some stuff down here, give you an idea. You know, whatever you may end up deciding to do. Just control that over there and see how it sounds. So all the way from the beginning, we have this one that is much more minimal. And then now this next MIDI clip. So, and then you can see how you could start to create an actual arrangement, right? Where you have this as a background texture in your song, and then you can create a beat around it. Okay? This is very often exactly how remixes are done. Most often it's the percussion that changes, and there may be a couple other additions, but you know, for the most part, it's like this. Maybe you want to do something crazy with it and have like the second clip here. Maybe I would reverse that. Who knows what that's going to sound like? It's probably going to sound really crazy, but let's give it a try. So there it is in its original form. This one is reversed. Hey, that's actually not so bad. So it's this kind of experimentation which will really lend itself to a really cool remix of a song. Okay, so I'll see you in the next video.